on these things that he insinuates America First, Groypers, Nick aren't doing. We're just sitting around on podcasts. Really? Okay, well, let's go through this. They fought. They worked. Are we fighting? Are we working? Are we sitting around on unemployment collecting welfare? No, that's typically the non-whites. Are we fighting? Yeah, we're the ones being canceled on social media. We're the ones getting fired from our jobs for standing for this mission. We're the ones doing this work for free for years. We're the ones getting kicked out of churches or getting kicked out of friend circles, being disowned by our own family members on behalf of this work. We are the ones enduring extreme amounts of pain in various forms, putting our life savings at risk, deferring the gift of family, of our own wife and children, in order to protect this nation. We are the ones putting everything on the line.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
You've been told that the world is lost and that all hope is gone. Society is too broken to save. Isn't that convenient? That lets you off the hook and says you don't have to build anything. So this is the Ben Shapiro argument, where he talks about how it's the idea that Americans born in America, whatever city we're talking about, that they feel entitled to live in the city that they were born, where their family is from, where they've been for multiple generations, where they have contributed economically for generations, where they feel at home. Well, they're not owed that right. If they can't afford it because immigrants have flooded the city and they're receiving social welfare benefits, housing benefits, food benefits from your government, so they're not even having to work anywhere near as hard as you, but they're able to get enough money to pay for the same resources that you're competing for, well, that's actually still a problem with you. It's not a problem with the immigrants. It's not a problem with the policy. It's not a problem with the entitlement programs that our government is financing. The problem is that you haven't built anything. I know you went to school. I know you took out $100,000. I know you've patiently applied for hundreds of jobs, but still the problem is you haven't built anything. Okay, how are we supposed to build things when simply getting into college, you're discriminated against? When you try to offset the financial cost of college by getting a grant or a scholarship, but those are handed out preferentially to immigrants or non-white people. And then let's just say you endure all the financial debt of getting that college degree because you couldn't get the scholarships or the grants, and you were lucky enough to even get admitted into the school in the first place with their diversity quotas. You get out of school and you're competing with an immigrant from India or China who is going to take half the pay that you will. I know that we are cutting you off at the knees at every possible turn so that you can't build anything. You can't afford a home to build up equity. But the problem is still, you haven't built anything. This is what everybody is sick of. This dismissive, victim-blaming, patronizing rhetoric of it's all your fault, okay? You just haven't worked hard enough. You're not trusting the plan enough. It's not going to work. We are intelligent people. We have the talent in this country. We are the most talented people in the world, speaking objectively in terms of building civilizations that people actually want to live in, as measured by global population standards. I'm not talking about Josh's opinion. I'm talking about immigration with an E, immigration with an I, looking at the two of them, the flowing of populations. I've said it many, many times. Every year, millions and millions of non-white people flood into white European nations. And it is never the reverse. Do you think that's because we're not smart? Do you think that's because we're not hardworking? I think the opposite is true. I think we are a highly intelligent, highly hardworking people who have cultivated a culture that's true across many different spectrums of technology, governmental models, economic models, military strategy. All of those European methods coming together, especially in America that has harnessed the best of many different European nations. That's why America is the #1 recipient of immigrants worldwide and has been for decades. And those immigrants are not other European people. They're people who could not match those civilizations in their native homes. It's a lie that we don't have the talent or that we don't have the work ethic. And so now he would like to remind us, our ancestors didn't sit around when the odds were bad on live streams complaining about how women dress or how modern life is unfair. They worked, they fought, they built families, churches, schools, businesses. They left something for you. The question is whether you'll leave something for everyone else. Well, what are you going to leave behind, Mr. Garcia? Indefinite aid for Israel that comes at the cost of Americans, dead soldiers, fatherless children, husbandless wives, widows. That's what you're fighting for. That's what you're fighting to leave behind for everybody. The protection of this pedophilic sex trafficking network, you're fighting to keep that on lockdown to the benefit of the Mossad, Israel, every other foreign nation who is using this for their own national advantages. You're fighting for the protection of multicultural, colorblind meritocracy, where white people insisting that this is our nation, we built it. We must become, though, despite having built it, despite being the ancestors of it, we must become the minority in these countries, because to say otherwise would be racial bigotry, hatred. And so we can go one by one on these things that he insinuates America First, Groypers, Nick aren't doing. We're just sitting around on podcasts. Really? Okay, well, let's go through this. They fought. They worked. Are we fighting? Are we working? Are we sitting around on unemployment collecting welfare? No, that's typically the non-whites. Are we fighting? Yeah, we're the ones being canceled on social media. We're the ones getting fired from our jobs for standing for this mission. We're the ones doing this work for free for years. We're the ones getting kicked out of churches or getting kicked out of friend circles, being disowned by our own family members on behalf of this work. We are the ones enduring extreme amounts of pain in various forms, putting our life savings at risk, deferring the gift of family, of our own wife and children, in order to protect this nation. We are the ones putting everything on the line. And even on that subject, as I said before, it's not that we are anti-family. Nick has never said you guys shouldn't have families. He says, first, be chaste until you have a family. And second, when you do find a woman, make sure she is a traditional biblical woman who will respect your authority, who will keep her role in the home, managing the children, managing the household, being supportive of you and your mission, and not be a permanent detractor from the mission. She won't be henpecking you and ankle biting and complaining all the time. Oh, you put so much time into the defense of our country, the defense of our religion. You have to find a woman who is on board for that mission. Those women are obviously quite rare, but that is the preaching, is to find a biblically aligned, mission-aligned woman and be patient until you find that. It's not saying don't go get married, don't pay attention to women, period. It's saying be discriminatory with the women that you do give your attention. And Nick says constantly, in terms of building businesses, like Mr. Garcia says we absolutely have to do, that's what Nick says. He says, go and learn a skill, whether it's a trade or a science or whatever else. Go and become successful. Accumulate wealth, because wealth is influence, and we can use that influence to guide our politics. Okay? So all of the preaching here that he tells you to go and do, build churches. What does Nick say? Go to church. Read your Bible. Pray. Nick is down for building churches. He's down for going to school. He's down for building businesses. He's down for fighting. He's down for working. So it's not like this guy has opinions that are in contradiction to what Nick says. Nick says all of the same things. The fact that Nick is a podcaster, ironically, so is Mr. Garcia. He just has a fractionally small audience for his, and that's probably where a lot of this jealousy and resentment comes from. Nonetheless, so what he has a podcast? He uses that podcast to say, go do all of these things. Work, fight, build, pursue a family. As I've already mentioned multiple times, the balance between family and the mission. Go to church, get educated at school, build businesses so that we can leave something behind. And so here we go with the empathy, the faux empathy. I love this. This feels so feminine. Some of you are hurt. You feel invisible. You feel betrayed by institutions that used to guide you. Oh, I don't know, like Daily Wire, like Blaze TV, like Fox News. Politicians who lied, teachers who mocked your values. You have every reason to be angry. But don't let that anger turn you into the very thing you despise. Wow, how insightful. Don't let that anger and disappointment towards those various institutions, the circumstances at hand, don't let that turn you into those who you despise. Okay, so am I going to become a Satanist? Am I going to now reject Jesus Christ? Am I now going to elevate some other nation above America? Because that's what I despise. I don't think we despise the same things here. I think you despise people who are conscious of the racial identity of America. I think you despise people who are conscious of the contradictions of Judeo-Christianity. I think you despise people who will put America above every other foreign nation with no compromise. We're not going to become like you. We are not going to absorb those ideas by being conscious of the corruption of all these different principalities. Yeah, we've definitely clocked that we have been misled, and we are disappointed by our politicians and our schools and our media. We are very unhappy about the economic circumstances that we are simply born into. That doesn't mean that we have backslid into rejecting Jesus Christ, giving up on white people, giving up on our nation. The opposite is what's happening. We are the ones who are awakened and fiercely fighting to protect these things. You are the one fiercely fighting to perpetuate that collapse. Let's keep those women in charge. Let's keep pretending that Jews and Christians are interchangeable. Let's keep pretending that it's racist to say something about America needing to be a majority white country. You are the one who is complicit in the collapse. We are the ones who are trying to fix the situation.
Meeting the people that you actually want to meet this day and age is basically impossible. Well, I have a solution to these problems. You're wearing your anti-Zog merchandise, that cutie from across the gym. She knows what the Zog is. She knows that Save Europa is code for white genocide. Or if it's somebody of the same gender, boom, you just got yourself a new best friend. This is your opportunity. Everybody's always complaining about how hard it is to find people who know what's really going on. Well, this is it. This is how you broadcast those beliefs to the world.
Are you ready for some more of his advice? Here we go. Stop following the men who profit off your despair. The ones who preach hopelessness because it keeps you watching. The ones who tell you to tear down everything while they live off of the chaos. So basically, if you express your grievances in public with the rotten, corrupt government, with the media who just outright lies to you, often on behalf of the corrupt government, with the education system that teaches you to hate yourself and hate ancestors, with being lectured by women about what's politically correct and what's not, by being forced to watch homosexuals having sex in the street, by being forced to watch homosexuals buy children and raise them as if they birthed them. If you're unhappy and you publicly express those grievances, well, I guess you're really just doing those things for profit and fame. I guess you're just a masochist to actually talk about those things at length and try to talk to others who have observed the same thing, who are also unhappy, who want to impact or impart change against those things. Well, you're really just wallowing in your own suffering, and you're really profiteering off of the suffering. No, we're trying to bring awareness to it. We're actually trying to fix it. We're trying to talk through the solutions, and we're trying to do so with a Christian compass that doesn't turn into violence. And you're very fortunate that we are the ones who are talking about these things. That we, as Christians, are the ones who are trying to talk through how to resolve these matters. The racial matters, the gender matters, the national conflicts of interest with other nations. You are very fortunate that Christians are at the helm of America First, and that we have Christian morals guiding our solutions. You are very lucky that we are the ones talking about this. Because if this was being talked about in the backwoods of pagan America, white nationalists, which it is, by the way, but they are not leading the movement because they don't have the numbers and they don't have the intellectualism and they don't have God's backing. And I'm not trying to slight my fellow pro-white people who want a white nation. I'm simply pointing out that the likelihood of any of our pro-white advocates succeeding, it's only going to come from a Christian pro-white leader. That's just the realistic truth. And I know some people don't like to hear that, but as a Christian, you have to agree with me that the solution for such large-scale, personal, international, ethnic, religious conflicts, it must be led with the Christian compass. There is no other suitable, acceptable prescription for this problem. So the idea that Nick just does all these things for profit when, as I've said millions of times, the 10 years of sacrifice, nearly losing his life to an assassin coming to his home, the constant death threats, the financial penalties, having to hire lawyers for hundreds of thousands of dollars, getting your bank accounts frozen, making it so that your business can't even accept payments, on and on and on and on and on, to interpret the body of Nick's work and say, yeah, he's really just shilling. He's really just profiteering. He's really just a masochist who likes to spread misery. I mentioned before, this is just rapid fire attacks. Hopefully something sticks to the wall. Don't look too deeply into it. Don't listen to Nick's rebuttal about any of these subjects. Just trust me. I'm old, bald, have kids and a wife. Okay, so I know everything. And so here we go again with his appeals to sentimentality and feminism. Want to know what real faith looks like? It looks like a father holding his son in the middle of the night, praying for strength, working 2 jobs to put food on the table. A man on his knees asking God to make him a better man than he was yesterday. This is just goy slop. This is Hallmark Channel written by either a Jew or some woman, their version of masculinity. You want to hear what my version of masculinity is? Flipping the tables. Chasing the money changers out with a whip. Where did I derive my understanding of masculinity? God, Jesus Christ. I derive my version of masculinity from the man who stood up to liars and deceivers and blasphemers. That's where I got my version of masculinity. Not the Hallmark Channel version of a man who's bowing before his wife, crying in tears about how hard the world is. I'm actually a man who says, sack up, work hard every day, doesn't matter. Agree, if you have to work 2 jobs, that's fine. You should absolutely be praying and petitioning to God for support and the protection and providence that you need to do this work, to fight, to stand against the principalities. Not to work hand in hand with them, not hoping they'll hand you 40 pieces of silver so that you can go and do their bidding. That's not the work. That's not fighting. That's not masculinity. We're almost there. Next to last thing he says, you want to build a movement that lasts? Then start at home. Build a faith that doesn't just survive online, because this country doesn't need more loud voices. It needs more strong fathers, faithful husbands, and men who will choose creation over destruction. It's a false dichotomy. We need both. Nick has never said we don't need husbands to be strong. We don't need fathers to be strong. We don't need devout men. In fact, he has said the opposite. He said, if you have kids, be very clear about what the actual gender roles are. Be very clear that as a white child, as a white future adult, you have nothing to apologize in regards to your ancestors for. You should be proud of your ancestors. You should be proud of white culture. As a Christian, you should stand defiantly against every other religion. As an American, you should stand defiantly against other countries trying to operate from within America to its own demise for the betterment of their foreign nation. That's what Nick has stood for. That does include being a father, a mentor to children, a strong husband, a provider for the family. All of that starting at home, as he says. All of that built upon a foundation of faith. Nick has said countless times that before you do any of this political activist work, your number one responsibility, even before saving America, certainly before having a family, get right with God. I mentioned before the 47-minute long compilation of super chatters on Nick's show telling him, hey, you are the reason I went back to church. You are the reason I am now a Christian. I got my very first Bible and started reading it thanks to you. That sounds like a man who is doing God's work, who is building his own faith perpetually and building the faith of other people through example, through defiant rejection of everybody who tells us that we must compromise on the exclusivity of Jesus Christ's offer of salvation, that there are some other ways. Obviously not true. John 14:6, I've said it 7 zillion times. And is the irony not lost on anybody? This is a influencer with a podcast telling another influencer with a podcast that this nation doesn't really need any more loud voices. Okay, then how about you shut the fuck up? How about you go back home? Baldy, how about you go back home and worship your wife some more? How about you go back home and simp for Ben Shapiro and Glenn Beck? Okay, take those paychecks. Why don't you go home and kneel before the Star of Remphan in your living room? Okay, how about you get offline? We don't need any more loud voices online. Why don't you leave the work to the people who are actually trying to defend Christendom and stand for American sovereignty? Okay? That would probably be the best outcome for all of us. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen, because some very powerful people want imbeciles like you creating videos like this. But that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to point out the irony of one podcaster telling another podcaster that we don't need podcasters. Like, really? Oh, man. None of these arguments stand up to scrutiny, and it's honestly pretty funny when you start digging into them. But here we go. Let's wrap it up. He says at the very end, so, dear Groypers, first and foremost, you don't get to address us. You're not one of us. You don't care about our interests, and you would throw us under the bus. You would renounce us. You would disavow us in a heartbeat, especially if we affiliate or support Nick. You would dismiss our cares as confusion, as irrationality, as bigotry. Don't address us as dear Groypers. So he says, so, dear Groypers, it's time to grow up and it's time to lead. What do you think we're doing? We are grown up. And that's why you're scared, because the Groypers have grown up and they have arrived. They've arrived at the institutions. They've arrived as major political commentators. They've arrived despite all of the suppression, censorship, slander, hit job articles, reputational assassination, attacks on their career. They've arrived. They have grown up. And guess what? They are leading. That's why everybody is in defense mode, panic mode. New York Times writing articles, The Atlantic writing articles, Ben Shapiro doing 45-minute long commercial-free episodes about the Groypers. Brett Weinstein, every other Jew writing full-length articles about the rise in Groyperism. Everybody knows the Groypers have grown up and we have arrived, and it is our turn to lead. And so that's going to do it, you guys. This was a very, very thorough video, but well worth the time to stop and talk through each of these statements that were made. This, as I said, Gatling gun of just, I'm going to fire off everything I possibly can to try to make you doubt or pull you away from Nick Fuentes. I know it's not going to work. You know it's not going to work. But the point of my platform is to give you the articulation. Maybe you just know, I can't trust this guy, especially when I see that he's a contributor for Blaze TV and Glenn Beck, and he's out here talking about how bad, and he's out here talking about how important it is that we champion women. You know, I get that we shouldn't be listening to this guy, but there's always more you can refine in your articulation. Analogical debates, things you can use presently or historically, receipts you can provide. That's my job. That's what I always try to do with my channel. So until the next video, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you'd like to support the platform, you can go over to BeholdenToTruth.com, get yourself one of these anti-Zog occupation hoodies or something from the Save Europa line. Head to toe, we got joggers, sweatshorts, t-shirts, hoodies, flip-flops, water bottles. It's like seriously everything you can need in whatever season that you are in, spring, summer, winter, fall. We got it over there for you, and it does go a long way in supporting the platform. Most importantly, as I always try to remind you, it actually goes a long way in getting this message out to the public and connecting like-minded people to each other, getting those friend networks built, and even opening up romantic opportunities for us to do the things that this guy constantly complains about and says you have to do with urgency. Well, I've tried to make it a little bit easier for you to do that. You know, you're out and about and you see that guy or girl with their anti-Zog shirt or their Save Europa shirt, and you know that they understand the circumstances at hand with white people, with the principalities. So help out the platform by getting something from BeholdenToTruth.com, or alternatively, you can subscribe to my Substack. A monthly subscription gets you early access to my long format videos, uncut, unedited. It also gets you access to my exclusive documentaries. Also, you can sign up for a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. So whether it's supporting BeholdenToTruth.com with the merch store or our Substack, these things go a long way. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because that helps with the algorithm. Until next time, you guys, take care of yourselves. America first, and Christ is King.
The few brave men who have actually tried to go out and do something about white genocide or talk about Jewish influence, the Zionist occupied government, we all know that they get crucified, their careers get destroyed, and so we need to find ways to support each other. One of the ways that I have done that is by creating my Substack, where there are exclusive early access to documentaries, my weekly vlogs, there are ebooks there. There's even an opportunity to set up a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. All of the proceeds from my Substack, from my YouTube channel, from the merch gets reinvested in the platform. I use that to pay my employees. I use that to buy the equipment that I need, the cameras, the lights, the MacBook, all the books, all of the software, pay for marketing, everything else, but also it protects my literal life. So if you want to help out, please do head on to Substack, get yourself a subscription. Thank you. I appreciate it. America first and Christ is King.